Some borders exist only on maps while others are written in blood. From mountains full of landmines to rivers guarded by soldiers, these are the most dangerous borders on Earth. Lines where geography, politics, and survival collide each and every day. The border between India and Pakistan is one of the most heavily fortified lines on the planet, stretching over 3,000 kilometers while cutting through mountains, deserts, rivers, and villages, and every meter is guarded. The conflict begins in 1947 when British India was divided into two countries. Millions had fled across the new border, and hundreds of thousands died in riots and massacres. A core dispute remains the region of Kashmir, a territory that both countries claim in full but control only in part. Today, soldiers on both sides face each other across fences topped with floodlights visible from space. Artillery exchanges are common, and landmines line much of the frontier. At night, drones are in the sky, and during the day, farmers work under the watch of machine guns. Each evening at the main crossing, both armies perform flag-lowering ceremonies, part military drill and part theater, where soldiers stomp and shout in perfect synchronization. It's a show of pride on both sides of a border that has triggered 3 wars. But while the India-Pakistan line burns with tension, one border is frozen, quite literally, and more deadly than any battlefield on land. The Korean Demilitarized Zone, known as the DMZ, is one of the most strange and dangerous borders on Earth. It's a 250-kilometer long and 4-kilometer wide strip of land that cuts through the Korean peninsula, guarded by almost 2 million soldiers. After the Korean War ended in 1953, the DMZ would be created as a ceasefire line, not a peace treaty. And technically, that means the war never ended. Inside the zone are minefields, watchtowers, and motion sensors. The tension is constant. North Korean soldiers watch through binoculars from concrete posts, while the South patrols with thermal cameras and drones. Ironically, because no humans live inside of it, the DMZ has become one of the world's most successful accidental nature reserves, home to rare cranes, bears, and even tigers. But one wrong move and mistake, and the quiet forest turns into a war zone in moments. If Korea's border is frozen in hostility, another frontier in the Middle East shifts constantly, where every dune hides a different flag. Few borders in history are as disputed, emotional, and dangerous as the one between Israel and Palestine. The modern border traces back to 1949 armistice lines, but after decades of war, expansion, and peace talks, no permanent boundary exists. Instead, there's a network of walls, checkpoints, and restricted zones across the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. In the West Bank, concrete walls and barbed wire snake through hills, separating towns and cutting roads in half. In Gaza, an armed buffer zone separates over 2 million people from Israel, patrolled by drones and guarded by sniper towers. Every few years, the border erupts in conflict, airstrikes, rockets, and incursions that redraw the map again and again. For locals, the border isn't a line, it's a constant reminder that peace has a price. If the Middle East is divided by politics, one border in Asia is divided by nature, where altitude itself becomes the weapon. High up in the Himalayas, where oxygen is thin and temperatures drop below freezing, the border stretches across 2 regions that are claimed by both countries, known as the line of actual control, because no one can agree where the real border is. In 2020, tensions exploded in the Galwan Valley when Chinese and Indian troops clashed with stones, batons, and bare hands because both sides had agreed not to use guns. 20 Indian soldiers and an unknown number of Chinese were killed, the first deadly conflict between the two in 45 years. But at these altitudes, soldiers also face frostbite, avalanches, and altitude sickness more often than they do gunfire. The real danger isn't weather, it's miscalculation. One wrong move on the roof of the world could ignite war between 2 nuclear powers. And if India and China fight above the clouds, another border's danger lies below sea level, where land itself is running out. Stretching nearly 3,200 kilometers, the U.S.-Mexico border is the most frequently crossed international boundary in the world and one of the most deadly. Every year, thousands attempt to cross through deserts, rivers, and mountains, and many never make it. Temperatures in the Sonoran Desert can exceed 45 degrees Celsius, and hundreds die each year from the heat, dehydration, and exhaustion. The border's lined with walls, sensors, and patrols, but also with human stories. Smugglers, refugees, families, and migrants, all risking everything for a chance at a better life. For some, it's a line between countries. For others, it's a line between life and death. While the U.S.-Mexico line is guarded by technology, another border is marked by trenches and barbed wire left over from a war that ended more than a century ago. For decades, the border between Russia and Ukraine was just another line on a map. That all changed in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea, and in 2022, it became a front line of full-scale war. Today, it's a landscape of trenches, minefields, fields and destroyed towns stretching from the Black Sea to forests in the north, drones and artillery dominate the skies. Millions have fled across what was once open frontier between two Slavic nations with shared history, language, and family ties. The danger is not only geography, it's the collapse of the idea that borders protect people. On this front, the border itself became a battlefield. If Europe's danger comes from war, another frontier's danger comes from terrain where the land itself kills before any soldier can. The Durand Line, drawn by the British in the 1893, splits the Pashtun tribes between Afghanistan and Pakistan, running through some of the world's most rugged terrain, the Hindu Kush Mountains, and it's almost impossible to patrol. For decades, insurgents, smugglers, and refugees have freely crossed it. Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and other groups have used it as remote cover. Both sides accuse each other of harboring militants and violating sovereignty. There are no walls, just cliffs and valleys and snow-covered passes, but that's what makes it dangerous. A border that exists only on paper, carved through a land that never obeyed maps. And if mountains make one border impossible to control, another one runs through the hottest, most unstable desert on Earth. In 2011, the world watched South Sudan become the newest country on Earth, and almost immediately one of the most unstable. The border between the two runs for 2,000 kilometers through deserts and oil fields and was never fully agreed on. Both sides claim a region rich in oil and grazing land, and skirmishes continue despite peace treaties, and millions of refugees have been displaced. What was meant to be a line of independence became a front line of resource wars, and in the dry season, dust storms cover the horizon, while in the wet season, floods isolate entire communities. It's a border where no one truly knows who controls what, a reminder that new countries don't always bring new peace. If Sudan's borders bleed over oil, another frontier bleeds over drugs, gold, and human lives, hidden deep within the jungles of South America. Stretching over 2,000 kilometers, the border between Colombia and Venezuela winds through jungles, rivers, and mountains, territory so dense that governments barely control it. After Venezuela's economic collapse, millions of refugees crossed into Colombia seeking food and medicine. And today, armed groups, smugglers, and cartels rule the borderlands. They fight over gold mines, drug routes, and control of illegal crossings. And officially, there are only a few legal checkpoints, but thousands use the jungle paths on a daily basis. It's not only a border, it's an open wound between two countries that used to be one of Latin America's closest allies. While jungles hide one border's chaos, another sits above the clouds, where both altitude and politics make it nearly unreachable. Running across the Himalayas, the border between China and Nepal includes Mount Everest itself. The frontier climbs over 8,000 meters, where air pressure is only 1/3 of what humans breathe at sea level. It's one of the few borders where travelers can literally die from altitude before even reaching a checkpoint. And in recent years, China has tightened control of the Tibetan side, while Nepal relies on tourism from mountaineers and pilgrims. Weather, avalanches, and isolation make it one of the least crossed and deadliest borders on Earth. A reminder that not all danger is political. Sometimes the Earth itself guards its own lines. The world's most dangerous borders prove one thing: that lines don't stop violence, they actually create it. Every one of these frontiers began as a marking on a map, but geography, politics, and fear have turned them into walls, trenches, and scars. And while maps may change, the danger behind the borders never really disappears. The world is full of mysteries, and we're here to crack them. Thanks for watching World Cracked. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss another great video like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.